Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Karl F. Rose, recording from Bedford, Pennsylvania, Monday, May 25th, 2020. And before we get going, let me put on my music. Okay, and now, if you're 13 years old or younger, please leave this podcast now. This is not kid content targeted, not targeted for kids. Let's do this. Again, if you're under 13 or under, please leave now. Okay, well, let's talk about it. This looks like we might actually have NFL this year, maybe. Everything is a definite maybe at this point. We have the NBA talking about being Mickey Mouse and playing Disney World, so that's kind of Mickey Mouse, but whatever. It is what it is. NHL are in talks, so is Major League Baseball. Be interesting seeing the baseball players in the hot, muggy days running after the ball with the masks on. That'll be interesting to see. See how well that works, but whatever. That's for another topic. This is particularly, let's talk about the NFL if it starts and where the NFC North, what I think the NFC North is going to look like. And as many of you know, I am a former Lions fan, and I am now a Buffalo Bills fan. We'll talk about the Bills next Monday. Optimistic on them, but let's talk about the NFC North. I will save the Lions for last because that's where they're going to finish, last. And the pathetic team, the pathetic organization is just such a disaster. That's where it belongs. In history of all time, of all sports. Nothing worse than the Detroit Lions. And they deserve it because they're garbage. They're just absolute garbage. So let's get into this. First and foremost, Minnesota Vikings, they're just going to dominate the division. They've already got it locked up. They'll be 13-3, and it won't even be close. The other three teams won't even make the playoffs. Minnesota, Minnesota actually, I think, barring all kinds of things going on with all this other stuff, they really have a good shot to actually not only win the conference, the divisional conference, and go to the Super Bowl. They could actually, they have a good shot of winning the Super Bowl, even with their quarterback. They don't have the greatest quarterback in the world, but they have a great defense. And the saying always goes, good offense wins games, good defense wins championships. Why they've underperformed in the last few years is beyond me. It's mainly because their quarterbacks are giving the game away. Their defense has always been top notch. Minnesota, I think they'll turn the corner, and they will probably sweep every team in their division. There's no way. Bears can't beat them. Lions certainly won't beat them. I just don't think the Packers are good enough to beat them. They're just gonna dominate. So 13-3. Next team I have is the Bears, and they're gonna come in at a pathetic 7-9. Not even close. They won't make the playoffs. Their quarterback situation is horrible. They'll be lucky to even get 7 wins, but I think because they play the Lions twice, I have them sweeping the Lions. So that's going to be 2 of their 7 wins if they get that many. That's where I have them at. And the Packers, they're a mess. They're a mess. They're almost as bad as the Lions, but I do have them being better than the Lions. I have them at 5-11. And two of those 5 wins will be against the Lions. And Green Bay they don't. I don't know why everybody talks about their defense. Their defense is not very good. And unless somehow, a miracle of miracles, if Stafford remains healthy all year, and the Lions, it looks like they're trying to pick up their offense. So who knows? But I don't see anything coming out of the Motor City because they're trash. And that's just, there's nothing to like about the Lions. So let's get to the Lions. If the Lions win any games at all, I have them at 3-13. There's no way that they're going to win any more than 3 games. There's just nothing. And those games are just going to be luck that they win. The best thing that can happen, this could be the best thing that could happen to Matthew Stafford, because for one, for the longest time, I've been criticizing Matthew Stafford when I shouldn't have. Best thing for him and his family is really to get the hell out of Detroit. Matthew Stafford and the only reason he's underrated is because he's on the Lions. And it's too bad. He's one of the best quarterbacks in football. And I would like to see nothing more than Matthew Stafford get a Super Bowl ring, and that won't be happening in Detroit. It's too bad. I mean, to see what they've done to Barry Sanders and to Calvin Johnson, and it's time for Matthew Stafford to pick it up, get out of town, and get a championship that he deserves. Really, he does deserve. Because he's been carrying the load of a garbage truck. That's what I'm going to call them, because that's what they are. There's garbage. There's nothing about them. The Lions organization is so bad. They with Barry Sanders, they had the best running back in football, but yet they don't build any support around him. Calvin Johnson, they had the quarterback. And they had the receiver, but yet they didn't build around that. And all they were doing was, until the other teams figured out, they were just throwing the ball. It was just a long pass and have him, Calvin, just jump up and grab it. So there was really nothing fancy about it. It was just throw the balls if you could to a really tall guy who was really athletic. So there's no creativity. There's no. So unless Matt Patricia can pull a rabbit out of a hat and do something that's amazingly a thing, they're toast. Him and Quinn are gone, and they probably should be gone, unless they pull a miracle of miracles and the Lions become a Cinderella team, which I really don't think. It's just they're doomed to be a disaster, and I don't see anything going on with them. But you put Matthew Stafford on, let's see, what any other team. Let's say he goes to Jacksonville or something like that. They're in the middle of a rebuilding thing, so he probably wouldn't go there. Or maybe even Miami. And I'll tell you, if he went to a team like Miami, he could actually turn that organization around. Miami would, that would be interesting if he ended up there. But that's what's going to happen unless the Lions have a winning season, which they won't, because I don't think they will. Then you'll see Matthew Stafford out of there, and he will probably go to a team and actually get some playoffs and probably get some playoff wins and maybe even a Super Bowl, which would, personally, I would love. And whatever, if he does leave the Lions and he goes to a different team, I would immediately start following that team, even if it was somebody like Miami, and now that I like Buffalo, I would have to give full support to whatever team he goes to, because just because I support Matthew Stafford. He deserves much better than the treatment he's getting. And the thing is, now that he's got a bad back, his time in the NFL is numbered. So I see it this way, he won't get anywhere in Detroit. He needs to be with another team where he can actually get a Super Bowl ring. And he's only got a few more years left to do that. And so the best thing for him personally would be for the Lions to have another terrible year, send Patricia and Quinn packing, and then trade Stafford, and the Lions can just remain in the dumpster for the remainder of history, because that's what the organization does. Anyway, well, that's it. That's what I have. I have the Vikings 1, Bears 2, Packers 3, Lions, of course, bottom of the barrel. So we will talk to you next time. Let me put on my music. Okay, we will talk to you next time, and next week we will talk about the Buffalo Bills and my optimistic view on where they're heading in 2020.